good too. I see some folks tuning in. Thank you so much. We'll probably be starting here in about, I don't know, 20, 30 or so. So get cozy, get a drink or whatever, and we'll be back. We're still getting some technical things set up here, but excited. Hey, everybody. We will be starting soon. We're just getting all technically set up here. So thank you for joining, and we'll be back in a few minutes. Yeah. Oh, that's impressive. There you go. Hey, what's up, everybody? We're still getting set up here on our side. Thank you for joining virtually. Our speaker should be joining us probably in the next 10 to 15 minutes. We're going to work through some technical kinks. So it's kind of weird. We're in a hybrid scenario. But thank you so much for attending and taking time out of your day. We will be right back. I see there's a chat message too, so I'm going to check and see what that is. Yeah, we want to accommodate as many of the folks in this hybrid world we live in. So we're in person. Our speaker will be virtual in California, and you folks are all virtual at your homes or wherever you may be watching us. So it'll be an interesting little bit of a setup for sure. But yeah, we will make it work, and we'll have a good time today. So thank you for joining again. Yeah, question in the room was how often do we typically do these kind of events? So, however you may have found the event, whether it was shared to you or you found it, we typically try to do an event once a month. That's even before COVID. It was probably common that we did two in a month. It was 1 to 2. And now the topics can span and be different, right? So we had some that were very focused on cloud and software development. Some of them were very focused on web and analytics. So depending on the talk, it may not always be relevant, but we try to have like these once a month. Yeah, it's we're anytime we find a great speaker in the area too. Usually it's around the time there's a big, huge conference at the McCormick Center. We're like, hey, you want to come speak at a local meetup the day before your event? It's always good to kind of see who we can grab. Still getting set up here, folks, but Carly should be joining us here in like five or so minutes. So see you soon. I'm going to test something. I'm going to share my screen, and I want to see if you folks of the stream hear my audio. If you can, let me know in the chat. Can you folks hear the audio that's playing right now on stream? It's kind of like soothing music. Cool. Maybe we want to unmute. How about now? Still no? Okay. Let me see. Maybe it's something set up. We hear music? Still yes. Okay, good. All right, I'll stop sharing for now. Don't worry, we're not going to be playing music. It's just I wanted to test something to see if me streaming they would work for you folks. So thank you.
So dark.
Cool. All right. Can folks on the live stream hear me right now? This is Joel. Cool. Carly, are you there still? She's stepped away. Oh, Carly, can you hear us?
I can. I'm just realizing I look a little bit dark and you can't really see me.
No, it's okay. If you can present or start if you have the slides or whatever, that'd be. We can start from there. Let me see.
Yep.
Cool. I think. Why am I hearing an echo though? I think I have to mute here. If I mute, there's no echo. Cool. Rocking. Okay. Please work. Let's see. Oh, okay. Cool. Awesome. So I see your slides on one. I see you. I'm going to turn off my ugly mug. And that should disable me. And I think I could pin.
All right. I'm sorry that you can't really see me. I didn't realize the light in this room was going to be this way. Should I just go ahead and get started with the intro, Joel?
If you give me 1 second, I'm going to make sure that our folks on the live stream are good, and then we could probably get started.
Sounds good.
Yes, it's working. Oh, this is awesome. Cool. Very good. I will put it back. And I will also see if I can make this a little bit bigger. Okay. Cool. Alrighty. So folks, let me just start with a little bit of an intro of GDG. Thank you if this is your first GDG event. We are a cloud community as well as a traditional GDG community. So we do a little bit of Android and web development, but we also have a cloud focus. Today's a little bit different. We're actually very lucky to have such a great speaker and Carly joining us to talk about GA4. We've heard a lot of folks in the community wanting to learn a little more about analytics. How do we, can we get some speakers for analytics? So Carly was gracious enough to join us, even though she couldn't make it here in person. We're still able to do something remote. So Carly, with that, I'll turn it over to you. I think you're muted on your side.
Okay, how about that?
You're good. Yes, I think you're good.
Yeah?
Yep, I hear you.
Okay, perfect.
Woohoo!
Cool. Hi, everyone. My name is Carly Body. I am a product manager on Google Analytics 4. I am sad I can't be there with you all in person today. I actually grew up in Michigan and I lived in Chicago for 5 years before moving out to the Bay Area to work on Google Analytics. So I definitely consider myself a Midwesterner and a lot of love for Chicago. So wish I could be there. Although I can't be, I'm really excited to talk to you all about Google Analytics 4 today. And I think we'll do like 20 to 25 minutes of content and then save time for some Q&A at the end. Alrighty. So starting off with a little history on Google Analytics. It's a product that's been around for quite some time. All started back in 2005 when Google acquired Urchin. If anyone remembers Urchin Analytics, you've been in the space for a while. In 2007, we rebranded to Universal Analytics, which is the web version that predates Google Analytics 4. This was also when the iPhone was introduced. So I think it's kind of crazy to think about a world without iPhones, but that was 2007. 2012, we brought on the Universal Analytics SDK. So we brought in app measurement to that platform. This was also the launch of our premium version of Universal Analytics, so 360. 2015, we saw mobile queries overtake desktop online as mobile continues to rise. And shortly after that, we launched Google Analytics for Firebase. So our app solution, or our analytics solution for apps, far, if any of you are familiar, far beyond the capabilities of what we were able to offer with the Universal Analytics app analytics. In 2018, we moved Google Analytics 4 into a beta. Google Analytics 4 is both app and web. In 2020, we moved it out of beta, consider it a general release stable product, and now here we are today. Google Analytics 4 was designed for a world that's modeled, consented, and based on first-party data. I think as we look to the future of what measurement means today and in the future to what it meant 10 years ago, it looks very different. The last thing I have here on the timeline is looking towards third-party cookie deprecation. Of course, Safari and Firefox already aren't collecting these by default. Google Chrome will follow suit soon. So in terms of measurement, we're really entering a new frontier. And Google Analytics 4 was built to bring us into that new world of measurement. So I want to cover a couple topics today. First, I want to talk about the event-based data model. It's a big departure from what folks are used to in UA, and I think is something that's broadly misunderstood about GA4. I specifically work on the dimensions, metrics, and data scopes and some of the core pieces of data in GA4, so I will deep dive on my favorite topic. And then I want to talk a little bit about first-party data collection and the mechanisms available in GA4. And then lastly, I'll touch quickly on some of the reporting capabilities as well. Let's start with the event-based data model. So since GA4 is app and web, sessions, as many are very familiar with from Universal Analytics, these don't exist in the app environment. And so in order to create cross-environment app and web analytics, sessions are replaced by an event. And that key decision was because it is a common language where we can understand both app and web. So with blending that, coming from UA, we had hit types, page views, transactions, app screen views for those that set up app on UA that would be translated into events. In GA4, we have an idea of a data stream. So in a GA4 property, you can add a web stream, Android stream, or an iOS stream, and they all can speak in that same language around the event-based model. Also, in terms of collecting events in Google Analytics 4, there's a couple of different ways you can do this. First, just by tagging, you will automatically collect the common and useful events for you, which are automatically collected events. And then there's also the option to enable enhanced measurement events. This is really marketer friendly. Definitely a feature more for marketers and not developers, but with a simple toggle in the UI, you can turn on those enhanced measurement events. And then the ones that do require code on the web page or app would be recommended events. So this would be like an e-commerce implementation or any type of custom events. I'd also add, before implementing a custom event, you should definitely check that there's not an automatic enhanced measurement or a recommended event that already provides what you need. We have a ton of documentation on a recommended e-commerce schema. And we're working on additional areas there, but always good to exhaust the first 3 options before you move into the custom space. That being said, custom events are absolutely needed in many use cases, so of course they're supported. So we have our events coming from iOS, Android, and web. And let's talk a little bit about dimensions and metrics. So here on the left are the different type of events we spoke about. And we have similarly dimensions and metrics that map to those. Again, here we have automatically collected dimensions, things like device, landing page on web, city, and language. And then we have our recommended dimensions. And this is where I've been trying to do a lot of work with customers to socialize what we recommend folks to use. I think specifically in terms of our predefined dimensions. So on e-commerce, we have like item name, item ID, item brand, item variant, like those should all be exhausted before thinking about custom dimensions. Custom dimensions, right now we have in both the event and user scope. Collecting a user scoped dimension, we call the user property on the tagging side, but this would be something specific to the user that supplements the predefined user dimensions. So things like, are they in my loyalty program? Are they a frequent flyer? for gaming, high score users, etc. And you can have up to 25 user properties per property. There is a big difference between UA and GA4 in terms of user ID. So first I want to say there's a big difference there. And then two is that user ID is different than a user property. So let's start with how user ID in GA4 is different than UA. In UA, applying your own customer, or I guess you would supply your own user IDs, and we would use those in a specific set of reports that would be user ID deduplicated. In Google Analytics 4, user ID is core to the entire platform. So it's not just specific reports, it's all of your reports, all of your audiences, all of your data is deduplicated on this identity space. In UA, folks would often send user ID as a custom dimension. That is not what you should do in GA4. Rather, we have our out-of-the-box user ID feature, which should be set up instead. If you want to pull out data or look at data line by line by user ID, we have a first-class field for user ID in the BigQuery export, so that you can view data that way, but it's not something that we have enabled within the UI. And then, yeah, I think that covers that piece. On the topic of identity, so another really powerful piece of GA4 is the way that we deduplicate users across both devices and platforms. So we have 3 different identity spaces that we use. One, device IDs, so that's the GA cookie for web, and then the app instance ID for app. Then user ID, where you provide your own user IDs. And then lastly is Google Signals, which is Google's signed in identity space. So we have all of these different identity spaces. And what we do is we first take a look at user ID and deduplicate off that. If we have a user ID and a device ID for a given user, we use the user ID and take that deduplicated pool. From there, we move down to Google Signals and look at that space next. We think your user ID data is the best understanding of the user, then Google Signals, and then lastly, we'll look at the analytics cookie or the mobile app ID. So these all work together to take the best signal that we have to deduplicate users across devices. The last piece on dimensions and metrics, e-commerce is an area that I am super passionate about. In Google Analytics 4, the e-commerce schema is different. So we now have the items array. So within an event, there's the items array and items. You can kind of think of it as a schema within a schema. The item dimensions and metrics live within that event. And so we have our predefined e-commerce dimensions and metrics, and we're launching custom item scope dimensions as well. It's going into alpha with our alpha program. If you're not a part of it, it is open, invite, and self-nomination. So I would certainly encourage you to join that group. Let's talk about integrating your data into GA4. So this Forrester study, I think we've all, those of us that have worked in the field for a while have felt the pain of siloed data that's managed by different teams across different organizations. Honestly, even at Google, we have siloed data. And this can be super frustrating. And with GA4 specifically, we've already brought together app and web, which is a huge step in the right direction, but obviously there's additional types of data and additional needs for data collection. And let's cover a couple of those. So data import in Google Analytics 4, we offered this in Universal Analytics as well. We have product data import, user data import, campaign data import. Another big use case is refund data. It basically allows you to update data manually. Another exciting thing that we just launched is our scheduled data import feature. This is via SFTP. So in UA, you actually have to go in every day and upload your data if that's what you needed. Now you can schedule that. The other difference in GA4, if you're familiar with UA, you'd be familiar with the idea of query time data import versus processing time data import. We're getting a lot of questions about why this doesn't exist in GA4. The truth is it does, but we are deciding based on what type of data, or we tried to make the best decision based on what type of data is being imported, whether that should be query time or processing time. So something like product data is a processing time. So you need to go back and update the color of an item or the ID of an item, et cetera. Then we want to have that be processing time. Something like cost data for your advertising campaigns, that's an entirely different concept, right? And that would be something that's evaluated at query time. So depending on what type of data import you're using, we'll automatically use one or the other to make that decision for you. So I guess this kind of comes up when we're talking to a lot of experts on query versus processing time. Where is that control? In addition to data import, we also have the GA4 measurement protocol. So now that we have scheduling with data import, I think that might become popular, and these seem even more similar. I think for measurement protocol, one, you need developers, you need all of you guys to be able to do this. So for some customers, this isn't an option. It's also in GA4, it's now available for the first time for app and web. In UA, we only had it for web, so really excited to bring that to both of those environments. I think the most common use case here is offline events, things like refunds, information from a point of sale system. We also have seen lots of, I think, pretty advanced use cases, predictive events. So folks that want to import predictive models for likelihood to purchase or predictive lifetime value. And of course, just any internet connected device that isn't collected via the SDK or the web tag, you'd be able to send data to GA4 through measurement protocol. I will add that in order to send data with measurement protocol, you do need to have an app or a web stream set up. You can't have a measurement protocol only property in GA4. So I guess back to the point of siloed data, what we're really trying to do with GA4 is create less silos. So we have brought web and app measurement together. We have expanded data import and measurement protocol for bring your own first-party data. And from there, you can activate that, whether it's pulling it out via BigQuery, using the reporting and insights in the UI, or activating your first-party data in your advertising campaigns via Google Ads. I'll go quickly through some of our reporting features. I know that this might not be as developer friendly, or maybe you guys aren't in the UI as much, but I do want to highlight because we've done a lot of work here. So first we have explorations. So this is a very flexible in-UI tool. It's somewhere between the developer and the marketer, where you can go and really slice the data right within the GA4 UI and dive in. We have quite a few techniques here. I think one of my favorites is the new pathing reports. Great for understanding top pages that users open, for identifying looping behavior, which might be causing users to get stuck at some point, and how you can better optimize their experience on your website or app. And then e-commerce as well. So kind of funneling them through that purchase journey based on the events and seeing where the experience might be able to be improved. In addition to explorations, we have our reports, a different look and feel than the universal analytics reports. The one part that I'm really excited about, I think, is I think we hear a lot about the need for, a specific report that, my CEO or my director needs to look at. You can customize individual reports based on those needs. You can also customize the left-hand nav now with your own names for different sections. And so this is really powerful just to have that in UI experience for folks that might not be as savvy with the product, but still need to see the data at a high level. This is a little bit deeper of a dive. So admins on the property, you can create custom report collections, which you see here on the left-hand nav, like acquisition, engagement, monetization. You could name those whatever you want with creating a custom report collection. You can decide what reports show up in those dropdowns, and then create a report from scratch or create a report from a pre-existing template. And then lastly, we have our BigQuery export with both web and app data. Here's many use cases. I think creating audiences is a super popular one for the advertiser use case, performing statistical analyses, reporting, alerts, and so many more. So we're excited to have both streaming and daily BigQuery export now available to all customers. So previously this was only available for 360 and Universal Analytics. This is now available to all. Our 360 version does have higher limits, but previously the whole feature was gated. So we are excited to bring that to the masses with GA4. Tried to go through some of the topics that are top of mind for me as quickly as I could. I think we can save the last 10 minutes. I would love this to be more conversational. I feel like I've been blabbing too much, so I would love to hear questions from you all and on anything that I covered or anything that I didn't cover.
Awesome, Carly, thank you so much. So let me see if I can get this situated. So what I'm probably going to end up doing is, can you still hear me, Carly?
I can.
Great, awesome. So I'm using the room. So what I'm going to probably end up doing is I'm going to ask room if people have questions in the audience. Some people from the stream, we're going to keep it fair. We all probably have some things we want to ask. So I will look at the live stream really quick and see if you have any questions on the live stream. Type them in that chat and I'll read them off. The first question I got, Carly, is there a chance that reporting identity will be added? Will add the ability to connect users based on user ID without signals?
So I think this question is, there's a setting that you turn on and it's user ID and Google Signals together. You can't just choose one or the other. It's definitely something we are thinking about. So yes, there's a chance, but it's nothing that we're currently building.
Cool. Anyone in the room have any questions?
What type of privacy protection is there for the data collected?
Did you hear that, Carly? Just to make sure. Cool, yeah. So the question was, what type of privacy do you have in place for the data that's collected? What type of privacy do we have for the data that's collected with Google Analytics for?
Can we be any more specific with that question?
Yeah, is there something specific, like what would maybe how it's utilized, or? No, this does build on a comment, I guess, a question I had, very similar, but I guess like how does GA4 and keep me honest in this, how does it handle how does GA4 handle the industry move from third party to first party in privacy? Is that yeah?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think I didn't cover this a ton at the beginning, but I think we are moving into a world of data needs to be consented. We have a lot more unconsented data and a world of first-party data and not third-party. So we're building GA4 for the future. We have things like consent mode to do just that, where we'll look at your consented data and then use Google Analytics intelligence and modeling to give you an idea of what that full picture might look like. I think real value prop with GA4 is that we're building in those modeling and intelligence and attribution capabilities. We now have data-driven attribution throughout the whole platform that can make up for those lack of third-party cookies that we're only going to see more and more of in the coming years and months. And I also would add first-party data strategy. So using things like data import measurement protocol to bring in as much data as possible so that we have as many signals as possible to run our algorithms and our machine learning to give you a good idea of what users are experiencing on your website and app.
Awesome. So I got a thumbs up from the person virtually. Are you good? Awesome. Rocking. So 2 birds with 1 stone. No, because there's another question that was on the stream. One more. Okay. So we'll come back. The next question that we have is, would it be possible to give more info on automatic/regular data import in GA4? Will it be possible to import costs without a campaign ID?
Without a campaign ID, that I'm not sure. I think the automatic piece is just the scheduling. So you would set that up via SFTP and just put your URL in, and then it would regularly set it up to pull daily, weekly, monthly. I know if in terms of like cost data from Google advertising, if you link to like Google Ads, DV360, SA360, that can automatically come in. In terms of the third party or non-Google cost data, I'm not sure if you'd be able to do without a campaign ID. But I would point you to our help center to take a look. Honestly, I would probably look there to find that out as well myself. But I don't work on campaign and ads pieces.
Okay. We took a call from a question from the stream. Anyone in the audience before I go on to another stream question?
Are the reporting requirement, the reporting format from BigQuery, are they going to be real time as well, or are they expecting updates to be made real time?
Did you hear that, Carly?
I did not. I'm sorry.
All right, so I'm gonna try and phrase it. Do you want to come up here and just like say it? It might be a little easier. Yeah. So just kind of talk loudly here, and she'll hear you.
Hi, Carly. With regards to BigQuery, are the reporting modeling, is it going to be real-time reporting from BigQuery, or is there going to be a future update that makes it a real-time reporting strategy?
Good question. So right now we have 2 BigQuery exports. We have a streaming export as well as daily. The streaming export is what you're thinking of as real time. It is more limited in that we don't have everything available just because of the speed. The daily export will be where I think you'd want to use streaming for directional. The daily export is where you're going to have your full scope of data. We are always updating the BigQuery schema to add more dimensions and metrics. But I think reasonably you can always expect the daily to be more complete and have more data than streaming.
Cool. Another question from the stream. For the people who import reports from UA to GA4, how long will we be able to access the old reports in UA? Also, what about the data in UA? Can we export and save them somewhere, or do we have the ability to migrate to GA4?
It's a lot of questions.
Yeah.
So I guess to start with the first one, it was on importing reports from UA to GA4.
Yep.
You cannot do this. There is not a way to port your historical UA data into GA4. So what was the second question?
The second one was, what about the data in UA? I think in respects to importing, but you said that it's not possible to import. So I guess maybe what happens to the data in UA once it gets sunsetted?
Yeah, great question. So our stance has been, and ever since we came into beta, was set up GA4 as soon as you can, start collecting your data, start getting used to it, familiarizing yourself with it, give feedback on it to, your Google reps and friends and, myself. So if you have not set up GA4 yet, like absolutely do that today. On July 1st, 2023 is when we will cease processing of universal analytics data. So we'll stop collecting new data. And so before then, we would recommend pulling your data out via BigQuery or other options. I believe it will remain in a view-only mode for some amount of time, but we'll stop processing new data on July 1st. So you certainly want to have GA4 set up ASAP so you can have some historical data when UA gets turned off.
Cool. We have 2 more questions on the stream, but anyone else in the crowd here? Yeah, what's up?
Does GA4 support SQL or like using SQL or R or any other languages?
Did you hear that, Carly, or did you?
I didn't hear.
No. Does GA4 support leveraging SQL or any sorts of programming languages?
In what capacity? Like, what would you be trying to do there?
Yeah.
Just for like querying, reading, writing, manipulating.
Got it. So like querying the data or reading and writing that data to external stores. It's just like maybe something like the BigQuery. I don't know.
Yeah, if you want to use SQL, then you would want to pull out the data through BigQuery export. That would be the best way to do that.
A question from the stream is, how does GA4 support data governance and quality?
Great question. So in terms of data governance, in our so we have Universal Analytics Standard, free version, and 360. Same on the GA4 side, we have GA4 Standard and GA4 360. One of the features that we've launched in 360 is sub-properties and roll-up properties. And this is specifically around the data governance use case within an organization. So there's, I think, 2 different ways to think about the way you split up data. One is data focus, like I'm looking at the US data, but I only want to see data for Chicago, but it's okay that I can see the US data. The other is I can see the US data and the Europe data, or the Americas and the Europe data, but at my organization, I'm only supposed to be able to see the US data. So one is like you have access to all the data, but you want to be able to focus on the part that's important to you. The other is like you actually should only be able to access some of the data. For that ironclad data governance of only showed the US data to the US employees, that is where you need Google Analytics 360. And that separates data out for different members of your teams via sub-properties, roll-up properties, combine data at a higher scope. But that ironclad data governance is really in our 360 version. Now, if it's something where you just, when you say data governance, just want to focus a report, then you can just use reporting customization or explorations to filter down to the data that you need. And then the second part of that question was what was the second part of the question?
It was data quality, like support data governance and quality. The quality is, it says, how does GA4 support data governance and quality? I guess more. No.
Yeah, I guess I'm confused on, I don't know exactly what by data quality.
Maybe more like the standards. How does it enforce the standards, which I think you covered, like through all of the mechanisms inside of the platform, with 360 as well for the advanced and stuff. So I want to do a time check, Carly. I know you had a hard stop. We do have like 2 questions, but if you have to go, that's all by all means. Do you have time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions?
I'll take 2 more questions.
2 more questions? Perfect. Another question is, can we do custom channel grouping in GA4?
Great question. Yes, that is launching to our alpha program. I don't work on it, but I think any day now, if not already. So you will be able to do that very soon. We have default channel groupings already, which you probably know. Otherwise, you wouldn't be asking about custom channel groupings. We've also made some updates to the default channel groupings to what we think is a better mapping. But short answer, yes, custom channel groupings in GA4 are on the way.
Cool. And the last question is, what will happen to users who have GA360 Universal Analytics after the new year? Practically, the contract expires 12/31/2022, and we continue with GA4 360. Will GA360 UA features remain until data collection ends?
For this one, if you're a 360 customer, I would talk to your partner or Google sales rep. I honestly don't know the details there. But I'll also say anyone that's on a GA360 Universal Analytics contract can get access to Google Analytics for 360 and all of the features. They just won't have the SLAs. But in terms of the specifics around contracting, you'll have to talk to your Google rep about that.
Cool. And the Google side. Okay. Well, hey, everybody. Thank you so much. Carly, we really appreciate you. I know we wanted you to have you in person, then challenges happened. Thank you so much for joining us. I think you could see people in the crowd. We have roughly we had at one point 15 people virtually, so almost 30 people today. We really want to thank you so much for your time, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Really appreciate it. And thanks for the opportunity.
Cool,
Hope
Carly.
everyone has a great night.
Have a great rest of your evening, Carly. Thank you again. Bye. So let's see. How do I hang this up? So I think I hang up here, which that hangs up that call. Good. And then I think we're still here. So Dan, did you want to talk about anything Looker Studio? Or do you think that was good? Yeah, I think it's good. Yeah, it's true. Well, we can have another talk on that. So cool. Folks, thank you so much for attending, whether you're virtual or you are here in person. We're trying to accommodate everyone's, world. We know that maybe some of us aren't even in Chicago anymore. You just happen to be in our meetup and you want to join us wherever you may be in the world. It's great, and thank you so much. And sorry if there was little technical glitches. We're trying to get used to it, but thank you so much for folks who joined us live, and be on the lookout in our community on gdgcommunity.dev. We try to do these once a month. Again, topics can be from Google Analytics all the way to deep computing. And I think next week we have an event here into the Google Chicago office on the study jam on Kubernetes. So if you're interested in that, by all means, come on down and learn some Kubernetes. Thank you again. Oh, we have someone from Prague. Wow. This event got broadcasted. It's very interesting how some people found out about this event. It's awesome. I love this. This is what makes community so great. So thank you, everybody, again. And we will all see each other soon. Thank you so much. Bye.